Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's not world's most exciting classroom. This is Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants today. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. This February is great. I love February. February, for the last 10 years that we've been hosting live events for classrooms, we give all the guys a break, kick them out for the month, and we host amazing women in science, exploration, conservation, and adventure from all over the world. So if you visit our website, exploringbytheseat.com, you will find a ton of live events this month. I think we have over 40 live events, lessons for classrooms to check out. And we have been just nonstop since February started. And so we're kicking off our second week this week. And I'm so excited to be able to do this going live into the field to Osa Conservation on the Osa Peninsula in Costa Rica. This is one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. They do incredible conservation work there. And we're going to get to meet some of the team now who are in different locations in the field. And they're going to share some incredible stuff with us, like the work they do in mangroves and wetlands, the work they do at the organic farm, as well as work that they do to track and monitor animals using things like camera traps and collars with GPS that they can put on and keep track. So during the course of the event, we're going to jump to different areas. The connectivity in the Osa Peninsula, because it is such a remote, amazing location, sometimes it isn't always with us. So sometimes we might have pauses and things like that, but we will do our best to work in each of the amazing speakers and visit the locations. After we visit each speaker, we'll pause for some questions as well. So we'll have Q&A for the classrooms at different points throughout today's live event. So that's enough for me. Let's get out live into the field in Costa Rica with Osa Conservation. We're going to start off meeting Linda. Linda is going to talk to us about the mangroves and wetland conservation program. So let me bring Linda in right now. Good morning, Linda. How are you?
Good morning, Joe. I'm pretty fine here, spending my morning in the mangroves to show you a little bit about my favorite ecosystem.
Excellent. Well, Linda, I am going to make you nice and full screen, and we're going to let you take over for a little bit and tell us about the mangroves and the awesome work.
Okay, amazing. Thanks, Joe. Okay, hello, everyone. I hope you're having a nice Monday, and we're going to begin this week learning a little bit about mangroves. My name is Linda. I am from Colombia, and I have been working and living at the Osa Peninsula since 2022. So I dedicate myself and my profession and everything to the conservation of mangroves. Here today, I was able to take this call from the field in order for you to see a little bit of what I'm talking about. So I don't know if you have heard about mangroves, but mangroves are tropical ecosystems. So they're just found in tropical and subtropical areas. That's something really important to know because they need some special like weather conditions and water conditions that are only found in the climate area, in the tropical area. So I'm gonna share with you some of the characteristics of the mangroves, so we can learn when we are on a mangrove how to recognize that ecosystem. So we have different species of mangroves. In the world, we have around 54 species or between 54 to 60, but in Costa Rica, we have 8 species. This is one of the most characteristic species, that is Rhizophora mangle, that in Spanish we call it mangle gateador. Why do you think it's mangle gateador? That in English it means like crawling mangrove. So I'm going to give you a clue. You can look at the root system. These roots are going to give you the most clear clue that you are in a mangrove. Why? Because these roots are like aerial roots, so they can hold the mangrove on site even if the tide goes up or the soil is unstable. So look at the soil. 1 second. The soil, it seems like a swamp, you know. So these roots are characteristic of a lot of species of mangroves, and especially this red mangrove, because it helps the mangrove to stay and be stable. Meanwhile, the difficult conditions of the mangrove like pass. Because in the mangroves, we also have like the tide effect. It means that these are forests that are located. I'm gonna try not to move in order for like not losing the connection. But in the back part, we can see the ocean. You can see the water here. So I am in the interface between the ocean and the rest of the forest. So mangroves are that first line of forest that are the only forest plants that can stand high salinities as ocean salinities, can stand tides like low tides, and can stand this type of soil that is like swamp and unstable. So this makes mangroves like really amazing. And this means that they can bring us a lot of benefits, not only for us as humans, but also for biodiversity. Because when it goes, like the tide goes up, imagine all the fishes that can enter into this forest system, and all the fishes that start swimming around these root systems, and they can find shelter, they can find food, they can like stay the first years of their lives in order to like grow properly. So I refer to, for example, grouper fishes or sharks, even sharks, and other important fishes for local communities that they eat. And also, there are benefits for local communities because they benefit, and not only for local communities, but for the global world, because we benefit from the protection these mangroves bring us from the ocean, because it regulates like the movement of the tide. So imagine we wouldn't have this amazing forest here, and it comes like a huge flood or something that like a unpredictable climatic event, like the things that are happening now. Without this forest, all the like first houses will receive the total impact of that climatic event. But with these amazing trees and forests, they regulate the water conditions, they absorb the flood, and they reduce the impact of the waves, for example. So they also protect us, so they are like a barrier ecosystem. So we're learning that they host animals in the first stages of their life. We're learning that they have evolutionary characteristics so they can live in this type of places, like in hard conditions. And we're learning that they are barrier ecosystems. What else can I tell you? That is really important. Imagine these ecosystems are the ecosystems that store as much carbon as any ecosystem can, at least like marine terrestrial ecosystem. Would you believe me? Well, the clue of how do these mangroves, there's an airplane coming, of how do these mangroves store a lot of carbon, it's in the soil. Because the soil, because it is swamp, so it is always saturated of water, means that organic material is going to take longer to decompose and to break down as much as it can because there's not oxygen. When a soil or somewhere it's saturated with water, it means that there is not oxygen for the decomposition process. So carbon is one of those nutrients that stays a lot of time waiting to be decomposed. So that's why the clue, and we have an amazing advantage. So that's also really important. We're lucky because so this is the seed of this has like the part where it ties to the tree, and this is the part that sticks in the ground and starts developing the root system. So I have something for you here that I've been growing up for some months. That is the same type of seeds that for mangroves are called propagules. And I'm just gonna tell you why it is called that way. So look at this seed that has been developing for around 3 months. So it's the same seed, but now it has created like look at the root system. Developing the idea is system. So these seeds, that is another evolutionary characteristic. They live in harsh conditions and in stressful conditions like tide, salinity, swampy soil. They have created viviparous seeds. That means that before the seed arrives to the ground or it's thrown by the mother tree, it is already germinated. So we're gonna take one for me to explain you better. So this seed, it's a little bit more developed. This seed, when you take it out from the endocarpo, that that little triangle in the top is the apice, is the first leaf, and it's already germinated. That means that when it establishes in the soil, it is already gonna be like one step ahead. That is an evolutionary adaptation that they have created for seeds to be more effective, like the germination of seeds more to be more effective, and try to ensure that more and more trees are gonna grow up in this type of forests. And that the ocean is gonna transport, like the water is gonna transport the seeds, and as soon as they can establish, they're gonna start growing because they're already germinated. So, something that people usually do not know is that mangroves are wetlands. Why are they wetlands? They are wetlands because the clue of the word wetlands is wet. It means that it's an ecosystem that one of its principal or the most important dynamic of the ecosystem is water. And that water conditionates and like makes the most important dynamic in the ecosystem. It means that it can be like periods of water coming in or coming out, or seasons of water. For example, those lakes in Africa that they are all like the year dry, but in some point of the year they're gonna be full of water. That is a wetland. Even in deserts we have wetlands. So wetlands, they categorize or include a lot of different ecosystems. That is why the conservation of wetlands is so important, because it's like the water, it's purified by the wetland, and the wetland ensures that availability of water through the different adaptations that those different ecosystems have created through the evolution. And mangroves are our coastal wetlands. That is why this month exactly, the 2nd of February, we were celebrating the Wetland Conservation Day, and it is a very important date because we create and raise conscious about the importance of protecting these wetlands. And the first step to conserve and protect is to know. So we gotta educate ourselves, educate our family, our friends, and everyone around on the importance of wetlands. Wetlands, as mangroves, they hold a lot of biodiversity. They are super important for the safety and food security of coastal communities. And they also are like the kidneys of the world because they purify pollutants, they purify the water that they receive. And imagine a world without wetlands. We would be like all the time flooded because they absorb the floods in this type of ecosystem. So they have created these adaptations to have like the system saturated, and that's not a problem because they have adapted to this. So we have another species differences. I'm not gonna tell you first. Remember the first species I showed you? I'm gonna show it to you. So we have a different shape of the leaf. And one clue that is really useful to me is the color of the spaces between the leaves. I'm trying to focus, but this is super reddish. And also these are opposite leaves. So there's one and the other is opposite to the other. So you as kids and young people that like nature, you gotta develop that type of attention to the detail. Because in the attention to detail, you're gonna find the answer. To learn to identify trees, to learn to identify animals, and develop that since you're pretty young. And also, like, I wanna send like a message to the young kids and young women and young boys out there, and is to follow your dreams on science, even though you don't know someone close to you that do science or dedicate themselves to the protection of natural ecosystems. It is an amazing decision in life, and you should follow your dreams. and you're never gonna be bored. You're never gonna be like always you're gonna be surprised because nature is always gonna surprise you, and it needs like hard decision, and it's like for brave hearts, but it's gonna be like completely worthy
Linda, I don't know if you're able to hear me, but you're just
because
breaking up on us. If you're able to hear me, I wonder if you can move.
you're gonna feel like grateful of following this path, and you're gonna like know amazing people, and you're gonna learn from amazing ecosystems, and you're gonna be learning from nature all the time. And for girls especially, in this date that is Women's Day, you're gonna find you're gonna find women in science, and also boys also to support this will be let's listen to the birds.
All right, Linda, are you able to hear me? I think there might be a little bit of a delay between our connection right now. Linda, can you hear me okay? Okay, we're going to come back to Linda for some Q&A, but I think we may have just Oh, no, she re-entered in a different spot. Let me try and bring her in this one. Hey, Linda, can you hear me?
I don't know if you were listening to me.
Yeah, Linda, if you can hear me okay, we heard your message at the end. That was a really great message for students. And if you can hear me okay, I think we should do a couple questions.
Yeah, totally. Let's go.
Perfect. So at any time, classrooms can put messages into the chat, and we'll see them there. But let's start off, Linda. What are some of the land animals that use the mangroves? What are some land animals you could find in the mangrove?
Okay, some very like representative animals are like crustaceans and mollusks. So we find like a type of oyster, like different type of oysters that are like really characteristic of mangroves, as well as crabs and polychaetes that are more like underground. This is the most like representative fauna that we're gonna find in the mangrove. But also there's a lot of birds, and not only resident birds but also migratory birds. So as I was talking, there is the endemic hummingbird here, at least in the mangroves of the Osa Peninsula. Or we also have like different warblers that they travel like long distances to arrive to the mangrove, and they find like the crabs in the soil. But also sometimes we're able to see some coatis and some raccoons that they like to eat crabs. So they start like looking the soil of the mangroves, and they start taking the crabs from the soil. And also we have some species of monkeys. I have seen the capuchin monkeys, I have seen the congos, and I have seen the titis. And the capuchins, they really like a seed of one of the species of mangrove that is Peliciera rhizophora, or white mangrove for you. And they open the seed and they start drinking the honey inside the seed, and then they throw it again, so they help propagate these species around.
All right, very cool. And then, Linda, another question here is about replanting mangroves. Is that something you do, and how often do you do that in the field?
Yeah, actually, that is like the center of our program. Like the program is mangrove conservation, but the thing that we dedicate ourselves to is mangrove restoration.
Mhm.
And there is a season of restoration that goes from like June until September. So we're almost 4 months completely into the field, like working together with local communities to control an invasive species that is not in these mangroves, but a little bit more north, like in the northest part of the peninsula, in a wetland called Terra Basierpe. So there is a fern that became invasive. It's native, so it's not exotic, but it became invasive because of deforestation, like 40 years ago. And it became dominant in the area, so it doesn't allow mangroves to regenerate naturally. So what we do with local communities is that we cut the fern, like we control it, following a restoration design. Then we gather the seeds that we showed you, like that I showed you in the video, and then we plant those seeds. And we try to do some maintenance because this fern is really, like, it grows really fast. So we have to maintain the area, and also we do some monitoring to understand how is the process of restoration going.
Okay. And Linda, last question for you. What's the most challenging thing about working in the mangroves?
Okay, I think it is very challenging to like the physical conditions, because sometimes, as I was mentioning, mangroves are like they have evolved years to stand these conditions. So the conditions, imagine these conditions are not easy. Sometimes we have to arrive in low tide or in high tide, and for example, arriving in low tide means walking around, like, I don't know, it depends on the site that we have to go, but imagine walking in this type of soil like almost 1 kilometer. It's not the same as walking on hard soil, because you're gonna be all the time like sinking, and you're gonna be like, it's really challenging and exhausting. And also, so sometimes we have to crawl like on the system of roots. These mangroves are like young mangroves, so they're not huge roots, but when the mangroves are like adult, they have like huge roots, and we have to crawl there, and that's fun. I like it. But when you get to have like heavy bags with you and all the equipment you have to use to do your work, sometimes it gets hard. So you gotta have like a good attitude, so you can enjoy those challenges and learn from that ecosystem. But that sometimes is challenging.
All right. Well, Linda, thank you so much for taking us live into the mangroves today. Very cool work you get to do, and it's in a beautiful place to call your office. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation, and I'm gonna stay here so in case you have any questions.
Perfect. Thanks, Linda. I'm going to tuck you backstage for now. Now we're going to spend some time. We're going to go into the field again to visit Yvonne. She is at the finca. She's visiting the organic farm, and I think we'll check out one of the arboreal bridges in the canopy as well. So I'm going to bring Yvonne in with us right now. Hey, Yvonne, how are you?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Joe. Nice to see you again. Do you hear me well?
We can hear you well. It's nice to see you on ground level. Last time you were up in the canopy tower.
Yeah, that took my breath away, like literally.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's let you take over for a little bit.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. Thanks, Joe. Hi, everyone. I'm going to share a little on while you will listen to it first. So my name is Yvonne. I am from Europe. Yeah. Very different environment to here, the tropics. I'm a little bit more south to where Linda is right now. I'm very close to our biological station. So here in south of Costa Rica. Like Joe mentioned, I'm at the finca, which is a Spanish word for farm. So we have here a regenerative farm. I'm standing in the middle of it. You can see a little bit in the back, hopefully. Like we grow a lot of fruit here, but in a very sustainable, pesticide-free way, and be part of nature. It's for us very important. Our biological space, where we do a lot of people working on all kinds of science and conservation, we feed them by basically for a big part from this beautiful farm. Before there was a farm where there was also cattle, but now we have it much more like back to a more natural. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I don't want to take up too much time because I know that there's some colleagues eager to tell you about other projects, how they're involved in it. But in general, this area for not only growing food for ourselves and our neighbors, basically, which is unprocessed. It's very healthy, the best you can have. Like I mentioned, for example, nata, which is a kind of potato. You can see behind me. There's much more like lettuce and kinds of all kinds of vegetables, fruiting trees are here from a natural point of view. What we also do here at the farm, we have a tree nursery set up. One of the major things we do as an organization, we work a lot with local farmers around where we are based in the South Pacific of Costa Rica. We work with them to have a more sustainable approach to their farming. And one of the things is to have trees that are native, that are often endemic, so only are found in this region, to be able to provide these farmers, the operators with these. That is also one of the things that takes place here, close to our biological station. We invite a lot of people, researchers, but also students to come and have a look. Helping hands for you guys in a few years' time. If you want to come down and help out. That's also a really important part for us, to be able to advise, in this case, farmers, oftentimes, like what we have, what we provide from our trees. So it's less monoculture, trees that are good for shade, which is good for the soil, etc. And which in the end is wildlife. And I'm now spoke to wildlife. That is my. I'm an ecologist. My background is I'm a lot involved as well in wildlife monitoring. So we do a lot of surveys. So, for example, we work on the farms, more sustainable farming. We also very much take that opportunity to make a better place for wildlife. For example, wildlife can cross easily without causing harm. So we work with farmers as well, and we, together with my colleagues, do a lot of surveys. For example, bird monitoring, because birds are a group that is a great indicator group to see the change in a landscape. What happens? Do they come back if they are for a while because of less sustainable practices in the past? Because, for example, a lot of forests have been all over the world, but here has been cut before, for example, to make pasture for cows. And we try to have a more efficient, sustainable approach that wildlife can also come back to those spaces where there's again more trees growing, for example. So we come in after tree planting and other activities have been done in the field to see the response of wildlife. And birds group, like I said, is a great indicator, and it's bird diversity is enormous here. So it's also very cool to see with macaws and toucans here flying over oftentimes. This morning the black vultures are soaring in the sky. Some of the other things we do that a lot. A lot of conservation projects do this because it's a very good method to do, is using camera traps. We use also other technologies, but some of you might have heard or used camera traps before. So we put camera traps out to have a 24/7 idea of what's roaming around. So we do that as well here, around us, fairly in the plantation, but around more in the forest zone, to have a look throughout time, throughout the season and year, what species are coming back. And that's very important. We had a challenge as well, which is poaching. So some of the species are coming back now after quite being pressured before, which are, for example, the tapir, which is the largest land mammal in the South and Central America. It's pretty big, it's a big animal. And also species like white peccary, which is there's two species of peccary, but especially the wild-lived peccary is a species that sort of disappeared a bit. The range changed because of poaching, because of disturbance by people that were doing illegal activities in the past. So it's for us very interesting to look at camera footage to see if these species are coming back. And when you set out a lot of camera traps in different areas for a long time, you can really see the trends. And what we see now is that tapirs, cats like pumas, ocelot, they're roaming around here. We know that they're around. specifically also on this farm. They are just running around. You see their prints. You don't often see those species in the fair, but there are species that Linda mentioned, like for example, which is sort of it's like sort of a family member of the raccoon, which you all know. There's these species you can see quite easily here. One of the things to link with the arboreal bridge that Joe mentioned, and that's the reason why I'm specifically standing here, is also to how species like primates, monkeys, are using the landscape. Because one of the challenges for them, not only for terrestrial animals, the tapir and the jaguars, it's also if you've got trees, and especially if that's a big area that you've got trees to make pasture land or kind of agricultural field, that really affects, of course, terrestrial output. So all kind of land animals that are roaming around here, and this is really a biodiverse spot that we are in, which is really exciting for all of us. But it definitely very clearly disrupts behavior and movement patterns of arboreal species. From squirrels to the biggest monkeys that we have here, monkeys and sloths, for example. And a problem for them is if there's in the canopy, so they cannot cross from tree to tree, that they used to be able to do before. Because, for example, there's a new road. There's also a challenge for them, of course, to come down, and then you have the risk that they collide with people. So one of the projects that we're doing is setting up arboreal bridges, basically ropes that you put up in one tree and then to the next tree. Now, I'll show you because I'm standing under one. So hopefully, over there, one tree, then there's two ropes, goes all the way to the other tree. And you can also see, so above my head, I hope it's clear enough, with some in shade. There's a gap, vegetation. Whereas, walk a little to show you. Whereas, for example, behind me, you see the canopy is connected. So, and as Linda was making her entrance, speaking to you about the beautiful setting of mangroves, actually two spider monkeys passed right here. So I was the happiest face. Not only because I like mammals, like wildlife like this, but especially so because spider monkeys are very important for the landscape because they're seed distributors, they move around a lot. But the other important thing, they are here in, they are still in a threatened situation. So we have them here, we can see them like often, regularly, let's say, often in our farm, our biological station, which is amazing. But they are threatened. And if you are familiar with the IUCN Red List, the International Union of Nature, they have lists of all kinds of species, flora and fauna, and they list every other year, they check in how a certain species is doing. And these spider monkeys are considered to be threatened. So we have to do something. Apparently, there's a big challenge for them. So that's why what we do is these ropes up so they can cross. And this is an actual bridge that they crossed. This morning, not. They crossed on the other side. Connectivity, as we call it, canopy connectivity. But here, there's a gap. Oh, sorry. Move a little bit too. So it's really exciting. And for us, we use that technology, in this case, camera traps, for other species, drones, etc. To really have a look, like how can we help these species, and how can we help best to restore the connectivity for them. And it's an amazing thing. It's coming back to where I am right now, which is on a restricted farm. I'll give you a bit of a view, like. Well, fruits are falling on my head. It's an amazing place to study wildlife. It's very close to our biological station, but it's full of wildlife because wildlife don't know boundaries, right? So they are roaming around here. We study them very well. So yeah, I totally agree with what Linda was saying. conservation science work in nature is amazing. This is an amazing place, very specific from a very personal point of view. But yeah, please have a peek what else we're doing. We're going to hear a little bit from our colleagues who are working very hard here as well. It's an amazing work to be part of, especially with these projects that you will hear from. We're in this together, and it's an amazing place that we are. Hopefully, that you can see what we're working in. So yeah, Joe, I wonder if there's any questions.
Yeah, Yvonne, let's grab a couple questions for you. And let's start off with the arboreal bridges. What
Yes.
species do you see using them the most?
Yeah, so the most, I would say, possums, squirrel monkeys, monotiti. Linda mentioned those. Those are the small ones. They are endemic, so they're only in this region and in the north of Pacific of Panama. Also threatened. They use them a lot and very quick. After we install the bridge, they very quickly start using them. Kabuki monkeys as well. Squirrels. Sometimes owls use the rope perch on because they have great vision to what kind of mouse might be roaming below. But yeah, we have Orlingo, kinkajou. These species are maybe a little bit less known for you guys. But mostly, yeah, the several monkeys, arboreal species, and usually also the ones that live nocturnal life.
All right. And then with the finca, the organic farm, do you ever have issues with monkeys or other animals getting into the crops?
I would say challenges, yes. So we do have some, for example, they're quite small. They have a very great sense of smell, exactly where to go for seeds. So wherever we plant something that we know from a seasonal perspective, they might be very interested in it. Peccaries is the same. We have like small fencing that every other animal can step over, but we know we tune in this specific species, especially a goody, is very keen to go otherwise. So we have some fencing around them to make sure, well, to decrease that challenge. Yeah, but it doesn't mean big fences or anything. Other animals can just pass.
Okay. One more question for you here with this is back to the bridges. How many do you have set up in the area around Osa Conservation?
Yeah, great question. So at this moment we have 30. So that's a whole bunch. Also, every like 3 months we will climb the tree that has these ropes to check the camera trap. And I don't know if you can see, but there's a camera trap up there as well. It's difficult with the sun and the shade. But there up there is camera traps. So we do that every 3 months. We climb not 30 trees, but 60 because it's a pair. This tree and the other tree. But where we are growing because we see it, animals use it.
All right. Well, Yvonne, thank you so much for taking us out to the finca today. We'll see if we have time at the end. I might bring everybody in for one final question, but it was great to get out into another part of the field today.
Perfect. Thanks, Joe. Enjoy the next.
All right. Thank you. All right. We have one more group to visit as we bounce around the station, and we're going to bring in Denise and Sarah now, and they're going to talk a little bit more about how they track animals throughout that Osa conservation system. So let me bring them in now. Hey, Denise. Hey, Sarah. How are you?
Hi, Joe. Hi, everybody. Can you hear us okay?
We got you loud and clear. I know you have the Starlink, so it'll be a little smoother than being out in the field.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right.
Well, thank you so much. My name is Sarah. I'm from the United States, and I've been working here with Osa Conservations for 3 years.
And I'm Denise. I'm a wildlife vet, and I have been working with wildlife since probably 10 years and 5 years as a vet, and I have been working here for a year.
Yeah, so we study movement ecology. So that sounds like kind of a big word, but we'll break it down for you. So ecology, some of you guys may know, is how everything within an ecosystem interacts with each other, right? So we have animals, we have plants, we have like the weather, mushrooms, fungi, everything else, right? Everything interacts with each other. So all of that creates what we call ecology. And so I am a wildlife biologist and ecologist. So we also study movement. So movement is, of course, how things move throughout the landscape. And movement ecology basically helps us answer some of the biggest questions that we have about wildlife. Where do they go? How did they get there, right? And most importantly, why do they move? When and where they move? So we focus on a couple of key groups that are really important to understand what we call connectivity, which is how well two areas of forest are connected. So if we have one forest here and one forest here, how are animals moving throughout this landscape? So we focus on three key groups. One is vultures, one is predators like big cats, and the third one is key prey species like tapirs. You have a little tapir guy here. So I mentioned that we study vultures. So there are 4 vulture species here in the Osa Peninsula. One is the king vulture, which we have a little photo. The king vulture is this white bird, and they are huge. They have a 6-foot wingspan, so taller than me, and this beautiful, colorful head, and they're the largest scavenger in Central America. And Denise is going to tell us in a minute why that's so important. But I mentioned that we study how they move. So we use really awesome technology that has kind of just been getting better developed over the last like 10, 15 years that lets us see where animals go and what they do in the field. So for vultures, today I have my friend, his name is Wakala. He is a turkey vulture, and Wakala means stinky in Spanish because we know that vultures are sometimes a little bit stinky. So Wakala has this really awesome backpack. I hope you can all see it there. So it's a really great little system that just acts like a little harness on Wakala and lets us track him wherever he goes. And the most important part of this is this little black square right here, which is actually a solar panel. So a lot of times we have to worry about the battery life of these devices. But with the solar panel, we don't have to worry at all, because when Wakala is flying up in the air, the sun will just recharge his backpack and he can keep telling us exactly where he is. So the most important part of these little devices is that they connect to satellite systems or cell systems and can deliver the information right to our computer. So it's very convenient. So we can actually get a GPS point like you have from your phone or from Google Maps. We can get GPS points every 10 minutes from our vultures. So we have 35 king vultures here in the Osa Peninsula with these same little backpacks that we follow every day to see where they go and what they do. So I mentioned that we also study predators like big cats. And so here in the Osa Peninsula, we are focusing on 2 kinds of predators that are pumas. You may know them as mountain lions or cougars in the States. And then we also have ocelots, which are a smaller cat. So for these carnivores, we use these collars, which go on an animal just like this. It's a little too big for my friend the tapir, but you get the idea. So basically with these collars, they go on the animal for between 4 to 8 months, depending on how big the animal is. And we can follow them around the landscape. And so we get approximately 1 GPS point every hour. So it's a really amazing fine-scale data that lets us see exactly where they go and what they do. And most importantly, how they interact with each other and with other species. So if I have Wakala with his GPS device and I have a puma with this GPS collar, I can see if they're far away or close together and what they might be doing. So it's a lot of solving mysteries, right? And seeing exactly what animals are doing in the field. So these little collars are particularly interesting. So this part right here is for GPS connectivity. So this part will connect with a satellite, like floating in space, and then deliver the data right to my computer. So I know exactly where this cat is. And then after about 6 or 8 months, we let the collar drop off. So there's a little piece right here that pops out with the spring, and then the collar comes off in the field, and then Denise and I can go and find it. So you might wonder how. This collar also emits what we call a radio frequency. So it's basically like a radio channel where we can tune in and tune out. So if we put in the radio frequency of this collar, then you might be able to hear a beep. So that beep just tells us exactly where this collar is. So we can use this big antenna to go and find it in the field, to get closer or farther away. And that lets us see not only where the collar is, but also where the animal is. So if we need to go check on it or see how it's doing, we can find it directly in the field.
Yes, that's pretty amazing. And maybe you are wondering, what is a bat doing there? And it's actually one of the questions that some of my friends do to me, like, why you are a bat and you are in the middle of the jungle? And I'm gonna tell you why. So for capturing animals, we need to have like safety protocols and make sure that the animals are okay, and that's why I'm here. So for example, for vultures, we restrain them physically. So Sarah will go into the trap and she will grab the head and also the legs and make sure that the animal is okay. And then I'm taking parameters on the animal and make sure that the animal is healthy. We take a lot of samples then I'm going to show you how we do it. And that's like super interesting part. Vultures actually are really, really important for the environment because they provide us a lot of services, like ecological services. And you may think like, why you guys study vultures? And actually here I understand like why they are so important. So imagine that there are a lot of carcasses, and you know that all animals, like a lot of animals are dying every day as normal, right? So imagine that those carcasses just stay there forever. And it's like yeah, like super bad for the environment, because actually a lot of wildlife like in the natural environment, they have parasites, viruses, bacteria, and that's why they are so important. They go and they start eating the carcasses, removing all these disease from the forest. So if without them, this disease can be spread and come to us. But because they are there, they help us removing those. So imagine how important is that for us humans. So we say something that if they are healthy, the vultures, we also are healthy. And we have a healthy ecosystem also, because if the carcasses stay there, all the nutrients stay there, just doing nothing. But with the vultures, they go, they eat, and then they fly, they poop, right? And then they spread all the nutrients in all the forest, which is great for the forest. And also, they help us spreading the nutrients and remove so the disease, okay? And then something that is really fun that you may think, oh, but how you guys catch a tapir or a puma or an ocelot? So we do anesthesia on them and we capture the animal, we do anesthesia, and that's why also I'm here, because I do the anesthesia, and then in the process of the capture, we go and we see that the animal is asleep. We cover the eyes so they don't have like any stress or anything. They are asleep, and when they are asleep, I monitor the heart rate with my stethoscope, that you can see here. And then I take all the blood sample and all the biological samples, for example, with the syringe that you may see here. And I put it in these tubes that then they go to the lab and we process to see how healthy they are, if they have poop samples, and that is really, really fun. I think it's a great opportunity to be here.
Oh, I think we lost Denise and Sarah for a second. Let's see. Oh, there they are. Hey, Denise and Sarah, can you hear me?
Hey Joe, can you hear us?
I think we're
Yeah, we got you back. We have you back. Yeah. Okay, I can hear them okay, but they can't hear me yet. I think they might have to maybe turn their... Can you hear me, Denise and Sarah?
We were doing something.
Oh, okay. Oh, can you hear us?
Yeah, I gotcha.
It looks like we're backstage. Sorry.
Yeah, okay,
No.
okay. So
Okay,
we thought
great.
that we was backstage. Okay.
No, we gotcha.
Well, yeah, I was saying that this is a great opportunity because many people, when I was studying, told me like working with wildlife is impossible, and now we're here, and it's really challenging sometimes. But I feel that it's a great opportunity. It's never bored, like Linda was saying. It's really special. And actually, something that is really fun is to follow which animal is which and what they are doing. They have like different personalities. They have like different movements and do different things, just like us. So it's like living in the life of an animal. Sometimes it's really fun. Also, we have the camera traps, and with these camera traps, so we set up these and take footage when something goes like this way, for example, and so we can see the animals. Sometimes like tracking, for example, like Sarah was explaining, it's hard for example, an ocelot. They like you cannot see them, but with the camera traps, we make sure that they are healthy, that they are doing great with the color, that the color is in good condition, and so we check on that. And then also with the, I don't know if you guys know, but they have like spots in their skin that we can know which animal like is different for any animal. For the ocelots, for example, so we say, oh, these have this type of like shape, right? The shape of the spot. And this is, for example, we have one named Jerry, and we know like what he's doing. So that is pretty fun about our job. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is all super important because we know how important it is that animals are able to move from one area to another. Especially with climate change, we know that animals are going to be moving around and doing things that we didn't predict before. So our job is really important to see what the threats are to animals in this area, as well as how they're moving and using different parts of the landscape. So threats could be contamination from pesticides or other chemicals used in farming. So all of the biological samples that Denise is taking and all of the movement data that we collect can be used to get a really good whole picture of how animals are doing in this landscape. And like Denise was saying, like we are so privileged to be doing this work. It's really exciting. No day is ever the same. I didn't know that this was even a career when I was little. I didn't know that my job existed. So keep exploring and keep figuring out how you can make a difference and like make a positive impact. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I don't know, Joe, can you hear us?
Yeah, we gotcha. Perfect. Okay, well, let's get a few questions in here. So the first one...
Just to mention, these
sorry.
are the colors that they used to be from ocelot. So now this smell like a skunk. And that, yeah, it's like
I'm gonna see if I can.
This one was from puma, for example.
I'm gonna try to I'm gonna try to go out and come back in again because I think something is wrong here.
Okay. All right. I think they're having a bit of trouble hearing me. I think, like I said at the beginning of the call, the Osa Peninsula is one of the most remote spots in Costa Rica, so connectivity is tricky. We're using a combination of Starlink today and a combination of cell phone connectivity from towers in the area. So as you can see, it's challenging, but I always love doing these live events from the field because it gets a chance that we can see what's going on some of the front lines of conservation. So let's give Denise and Sarah a second and see if they're able to join back in here. I think they were just exiting, coming back in. And then, yeah, we'll be almost ready to wrap up for today. Here we go. They're coming back.
We're back.
Hey, Denise. Hey, Sarah.
Hey.
All right. We could hear you just fine. So we heard everything you were sharing. That was all great. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, we're ready for any questions that you guys might have.
Perfect. Well, the first one that we have is, you mentioned so many different animals that may have the tracking devices at different times. So do any of them seem to be annoyed or try to remove them? Have any of them been able to take off one of the traps or the collars?
So luckily nobody has been able to take them off yet, but sometimes, like, these are some of the collars that we've been able to retrieve from the field. So you can see this one, and the ocelot that was wearing this collar tried to like bite the antenna a lot here, but that's okay. She didn't get it off. So, and luckily they don't seem too bothered. So the weight of the collars is really minimal compared to the size of the animals. So we always make sure we never go above like 3% for birds and then 5% for mammals of their whole body weight. So even though it looks like a big collar, it's a really big animal too.
Imagine also that this collar is like 2 kilograms probably, and like 4 pounds. And for example, the tapir weighed like probably like 600 pounds. So it's like really, the animal is really big compared to the collar. And like luckily they don't seem bothered in camera traps. That's why it's also super important to keep tracking of the animals.
Yeah. All right. Another question here about the camera traps. Is there anything interesting or surprising you've ever seen while reviewing the videos?
Yeah, we get really cool stuff sometimes. Just a couple weeks ago, we were looking at a camera trap really close to us, like 100 meters away maybe, and we saw a puma hunting an agouti. So we could watch her go and like lunge and hunt the agouti, which was really crazy.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Also, we see an ocelot that have a collar on and have a baby. So that was like super, super cute. The baby, we saw him growing with the time. It was like a year, and now the mother seems alone, and we start looking at the baby, and now he's alone. So we saw all that process, and it was like really, really nice to see.
Yeah. A question here about being a vet in the rainforest. Do you ever, when you're working with the animals, what kind of samples do you take?
So I take blood samples, and I also take swabs from the mouth, from the ears, from the nose, from the genitals, and from the rectum. Also, I take poop samples and ticks. Also, if they have lice, and ticks. Yeah.
Okay.
And all those samples, we take them to different labs. So we do biochemistry, hemogram to see how is the health of the animal. And then with the ticks, we want to see which type of ticks, if they have any disease, and if they carry any disease. And also for the poop, we look at the microscope and we see if they have any parasite, any eggs of parasites. Yep, so it's really fun.
All right. I'm going to bring in Linda and Yvonne one more time because we're at about the end of our time, but I think it would be fun to have everybody answer one question here. So I'm going to bring everybody back in. Hey, Linda, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. Yvonne, can you hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
Perfect. So the question that I think would be great to end off on is if each one of you would like to take a turn and take a minute and just tell us what inspired you to get into conservation. What inspired you to pursue a career in conservation? So I don't know who wants to start. Maybe I'll pick. Let's start with Linda because Linda's been waiting patiently for a while.
Okay, I was inspired to start my career first in protecting nature because I think that I was in contact since I was little. I wanted to be a vet actually, but then I changed it to biology because I really like to be in nature, and I really like to understand the interactions between nature. But when I start knowing ecosystems like mangroves or marine ecosystems where communities have such a close relation with this ecosystem, not only for using the resources but also for their identities, and how like they have created all these like belief systems and like cosmology and like everything around like the ecosystem. I like decided to go through like the career of conservation and sustainable management because I feel that it was like continue like strengthening this relation. Like it's not only of using the ecosystem but also just respecting the ecosystem because it exists. Like it doesn't have to be useful for you to respect it, and that's really important, or for you to protect it. It's just something that exists, so it's something that deserves to be here also as I am here. And I think that also like you can do conservation not only by studying biology or wildlife veterinary or that type of careers. I think that even if you're an engineer or someone who is dedicated to technology or to a lot of things, like you can link your work and your efforts to conservation and to protecting nature. So it's not necessary that you take necessarily like the way of being in the field to actually help these efforts and initiatives around the world. So you can do it from everywhere.
Awesome. Thanks, Linda. All right, Yvonne, we'll put you in the hot seat.
Yes. For me, early on, I knew that I wanted to work for animals. I grew up on a farm, surrounded by animals all my life. So I knew I wanted to do something with animals. And specifically, the happy place for me is being out exploring. So that combination to study wildlife, to have a look what they're doing, and knowing as you grow up, not necessarily when I was like very young, but I mean at one point to see all the challenges they face, like connectivity loss, etc. That made for me very easy the possibility to grab that, to become an ecologist. So the combination of working with or for wildlife basically, and being in nature, exploring, and then using these camera traps, example, like that combination of everything together is for me, yeah, that makes, and especially in these conditions, anywhere, but especially here, it's amazing because there's so much biodiversity, but it's also so much to preserve and to improve. And I feel very passionate and dedicated to contribute in my own way by climbing trees, for example. So yeah.
All right, very cool. Okay, Denise, let's get your thoughts.
Okay, so it, I always wanted to be a vet. I knew that I was rescuing cats since I was like 5. Probably my mom was like really mad at me all the time because of that. But then I grew up in a city, so I didn't have the opportunity to be surround wildlife or forest. And when I get to university, there was a day I remember this really clear, being in a field and realizing that I wanted to do something with environment and with wildlife. And I told myself, like, okay, I need to explore what is the opportunities. And at that moment, I didn't know what to do. So I started going to rescue centers, wildlife rescue centers. And in there, I saw a lot of hard cases, electrocutions, and like animals suffering. So I told myself, this is what I want to do. I want to help them. Like I feel like a strong connection with animals, and I just love like helping animals and know that they are okay and feel that you are doing something for them. And then now being here and knowing all the secrets of the animals is just like so inspiring. Then I see all these women working with me and I'm like, they are so brave, they are so cool. And I don't know, it's just a super nice, really nice place to work.
Okay, thanks, Denise. All right, Sarah.
Yeah, I think like everybody else has said, I've always loved nature and wildlife. And I also grew up in a city, so I was not always surrounded by those kinds of environments. But whenever I did have the opportunity to go into nature and be surrounded by wildlife and animals, it was always my happy place. But I also had so much curiosity, right? I needed to like dig deeper and know more. And I was always reading and learning. And I wanted to be a vet for a very long time. But during university, I got the chance to do a field study in Costa Rica. And that's when I fell in love with the tropics and doing research in the tropics. And I knew that I needed to come back as soon as possible. So I did. But like I said, I didn't know that my career was even an option for me. I didn't know anybody who did field work or field biology or anything like that. So I think just like keeping an open mind and exploring and seeing what's out there and taking risks, that can be a really, really great payoff. And I really wanted to just find the way that I could contribute to solve these issues of like biodiversity loss and climate change and everything that we know is coming down the pipeline. And I was like, well, if I can do as much as I can now, then I, in my one small way, can make a difference. And maybe I can encourage other people to do their part to make a difference. And together we can make a better world.
All right. Amazing. Well, I want to start off with a huge shout out to the students who tuned in today, those who were tuned into the recording as well. Thank you so much for spending your Monday starting the week with us. And obviously, we hope to see you joining more events throughout the rest of February. Linda, Yvonne, Denise, and Sarah, thank you so much for everything, the work you do at Osa Conservation, and hanging out with us today to share that work with students.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the
Thank you so
opportunity.
much.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, we're going to sign off for today. Thanks so much, everyone.
Okay. Have a
Bye.
nice day. Bye.